Earlier, Keith talked about the scenario he was working on with his Power App where they actually had the repair runners. These are people who go out to the buses and will repair them when they break down, but they'll repair them on the route. And that's a really important detail because you don't want to go take the bus back to the depot and take it offline for multiple hours. This is really important to have a great customer experience. And before, that was all pen and paper. That was phone calls, text messages, emails with Excel files, things like that. That's how you actually manage the process. But with PowerApps, he was able to build a powerful mobile application that managed that entire business process. So this first screen, what we're looking at here, the gray box is the currently pending repair, and the white section below, which I'm scrolling through right now, is previously completed repairs. The gray box is highlighted on the top, and you can actually see there's some tight integration there around Leah Bridge, Clapton Pond, things like that. Those are actually the next stops for the bus. And this is important because the repair runner, if the bus is still operating, they don't want to stop the bus. They actually want to go meet it at the next stop and repair it there. So they can easily pull up that information. And that's actually done by coming from Traffic for London and a bunch of other data sources to go pull that information. So say if I click through into this pending repair, we can see there's all kinds of great information here around what is the license plate of the bus I'm going to repair, what route is it running, what is the next stop, where I should be trying to meet it, things like that. And I can actually go fill out the information right in here about what's wrong. So in this case, say the defect category I want to say is body damage, and I can say there's a big dent, something like that. And I can say, hey, I'm going to repair this thing. And as part of that, I'm going to take a picture. And I'll take a picture of you guys. Great. Crowd. And then take another picture. You can take a bunch of different pictures, crowd too. The idea being that before, with pen and paper or things like that, you actually would have to do a whole bunch of it just was impossible. There's no way to take a picture with pen and paper unless you're going to go sketch it out. But you can now do that with PowerApps. You can actually leverage those device capabilities natively. We also have a map, which as I complete the repair, records where I was. So I don't actually have to enter what stop or what location I actually did the repair. And I can also, say, use a barcode scanner. So say if I want to say, what repair item did I actually drop in there? It'll look it up based on the barcode, which I just have here on a piece of paper. And it'll say, okay, I don't know what this, a fuel filter or something, if I want to go drop it in. This automatically can be taken out of inventory and things like that, which makes it very easy for me to track all this information together. And PowerApps brings together all these different data sources, something like 10 different data sources into a single mobile experience, which they can take with them in their pocket with their own devices. And this is built by a non-developer. That's what was so special about it, someone actually from the business. And if I go and say I click through repair history, I can actually go see all the repair histories associated with this particular bus as well. Because if I go check here and, hey, we fixed the brakes 5 times in the last week, maybe it is time to take it to the bus depot. Maybe we have to go in for a bigger repair. All this information kind of can click through and actually go look, okay, this is what was fixed before. Just an incredibly rich experience end to end, many different screens, and not that hard to build. And to prove it, we'll actually go build it. So I'll switch over to the computer. Okay, there we go. So what we're looking at here is PowerApps Studio. It's just like PowerPoint in that it's very easy for you to actually go author what you want your application to look like visually. We can see on the left-hand side, we have a whole bunch of different screens, just like you would see slides in PowerPoint. We can see in the center area right here, this is actually the screen that we were just looking at on the app. And that's what's incredibly powerful about PowerApps is as you build the app, you're actually looking at the app run itself with real data, with real logic evaluating. This makes it incredibly productive to go build fairly complex applications. So say if I switch over to a view I like to use more frequently, we can see I have a gallery here. This is just a collection of different things. And these are the repair items that I've actually done before. And we can see the items is a fairly complex expression up here, but it's actually not that complex. It's basically just pulling down all the pending repair requests that have a repair information already recorded, which means it's done or been completed, and showing it right here in this display. And the way I bound that data is just right inside this simple experience where I can go choose a data source. I've chosen the common data service because that's where I actually choose to store my information in the case of this Power App. I also have the ability to go change my field layout. It's pretty easy right here. You can see all the different information being pulled out and displayed right in that simple grid. So that's just a very easy snap it together type experience, and you can go tinker with different elements inside that gallery to make it a little more complex. And if I go up here, I actually have a different piece of information, which is the gallery of pending requests. That's what's in this gray box. And this has a similar expression up here, which is basically saying, hey, I want to take from the repair requests table in the common data service. I'm going to do a filter based on the fact that there's been no repair action taken. I want to sort by the ones that are most recently done. That's what sort by does, and take the first 5. So a very, very easy way to snap these things together on these screens. But that's not super interesting necessarily, right? Just to go review the different information. What I may want to go do is actually take an action. So if I say click through into one of these repair items, so when I'm actually on site looking at an item that I'm repairing, I want to have that same type of rich information automatically bound. So we can see I have an edit form, which is actually allowing me to edit that same repair request entity right inside the context of the application without having to go leave it or anything like that. And again, it's pulling the schema and fields automatically from the common data service, so I can very easily edit that particular record or go create new records if I need to. And there's a whole bunch of other great device capabilities down here, like taking the photo, taking the barcode, things like that. And the one thing I do want to call out while I'm on the screen is the data sources. So PowerApps, like we were talking about, one of the key things is having tons of connectors. We have over 230 connectors today. We're going to keep building connectors until we have basically the whole world covered. But this Power App alone uses 4 different entities in the common data service. It uses a Transport for London API, it uses Azure Blob Storage, uses Bing Maps, speech to text, all kinds of different capabilities. Just all integrated, again, without having to write any code. You can, if you just think about what you could build this entire app in just a day, it would take you a day just to figure out authentication to those many services. So even if you come from a developer background, there's a lot of agility and speed available for you. And if you come from a non-developer background, it would just be impossible otherwise. So if I go over here, and say I want to go add on one last screen, remember the repair history screen, we can actually go drop that on right here. So say I just drop on a gallery, which is just, again, that collection, a list of items. So that'll drop that on right there. And if I drag this down, I can then bind to the data source. So this is just a simple list. It's a bunch of placeholder text right now. If I wanted to, I can go to add data source. It's going to pull up all the different data sources that are inside of this particular app. And maybe I want to create a new connection. If I look, these are all the connectors, just tons and tons and tons of them, all available off the shelf. I don't want to use that actually. I'm going to use a data source I've already configured, which is that repair history item. So I'll come here and say repair requests. This will go pull down that information. Not very beautiful at first, right? But that's not a big problem. I can then say from a layout, I don't want image title and subtitle. I actually want title, subtitle, and body. That's just 3 text fields and still not really pretty, but it's very easy for me to say drop in here, choose the title. I can say, hey, what do I want to do? I want the defect category label. See, that's brakes, engine, air system, things like that. Automatically binds, just refreshes in real time. Don't have to compile, don't have to publish, anything like that. I then go to the subtitle. I like created on, so I'll keep that. I can then go to the body. And for body, maybe I want the defect details, because that probably makes more sense, right? Like brake safety light coming on, right? And that could be an example of what that looks like. And if I click through in here, maybe I don't want the chevron. So just very easily, click, 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 bringing this thing together. And if you think about it, maybe I want to actually, hey, I want the rows a little bit bigger. So I'll drag this bigger. You can see it gets bigger, so on. And then maybe I want to drop on like an image. So I'll drop on an image right here. I got no image right now that's defined, but I'll choose something simple. So maybe I'll do, what image do I want? I'll do something like if the defect category label is equal to brakes, I want to use this Arriva one that I have breakdown. Otherwise, I want to use sample image. And if you think about this, just very easy Excel-like expression language. I'm able to do basic logic right in the Power App. And again, the logic just evaluates immediately. I can quickly see this image comes up. So in the cases where the value is brakes, up there for the label, I can actually see that we have this triangle icon. And where it's not, I have a sample image. And I'm just, for time's sake, I won't actually go create all the different images. But you can see how easy it starts to get really to create this app. So I can come up here, say, and also maybe increase the size of the particular label. I have all kinds of different capabilities that I can do very, very easily right inside the Power Apps context. And if you fast forward, kind of like the Easy Bake Oven, what comes out in the end, maybe it looks something like this, a little bit nicer if you just have a few more minutes. But the one thing I do want to call out before I leave the Power Apps Studio is the app checker. We talked about this. This is now available, and it's getting better every day. with additional logic. That's right up here, this little stethoscope there to go help you in your app. And if you see, the app checker is run, and it's identified one issue with my formula and 83 issues with accessibility. So say screen readers to work on my app. So I got a lot of work to do. If I click on the formula, we can see, hey, we have a delegation warning. And what this is basically telling me is this particular filter I've written, this doesn't happen on the server. It actually happens on the client. And we have a whole great article explaining delegation if you go look it up after seeing this error. And this can tell you that you need to go change your filter or potentially change how you do your data layout. Because if you don't, when you actually end up with a lot of data in the back end, your app is going to start running dreadfully slow. So these types of things we can go catch during authoring time automatically by intelligently providing guidance. So that's the App Studio. The one other thing I want to quickly show is flow. So if we go back to the app, there's a little button here which is take 24-hour offline. We see right here. And you do that when something's horribly broken with the bus. You just can't fix it on the side of the road. You got to bring it back to the depot. And that's something that should be used only as a last resort. And to make sure that's the case, you can actually use Microsoft Flow. And what the Flow does is it looks and says when there's an update inside the repair requests entity, which is where we're storing that information, and we're updating the request 24-hour sheet field. So we're scoping this flow to only run when that field changes, which is a brand new preview capability. I then actually want to run this particular workflow. You can see, hey, if it hasn't changed, so it's true, that's great. And I actually want to start an approval process. And the approval process is going to generate an email and track who actually has approved this request, all with the same context that came out of the Common Data Service. And that's done by something called dynamic content. So you see these little tokens that are inside the designer. The email for this approval will actually include this information. Hey, there's a request for 24-hour repair for this route at this station. And that actually comes all the way up from the trigger. So really tight integration, just like PowerApps, you can flow all kinds of information. And in this case, there's another condition. So we have conditions and conditions and conditions. You kind of keep going all the way you want. And we say, hey, if the approval is approved, then I want to send an email letting the manager know with the same context using the same dynamic content. And I also want to send a push notification to the tech who actually requested it. And this way you can just have that very quick feedback loop through the mobile experience. And if you reject it, you actually want to go back to Common Data Service and mark it as no, saying this is not a good reason. And so they look back on their phone and it will say 24-hour request, and it will actually show no. And that's what we're doing right here by requesting a 24-hour sheet saying no. So this whole end-to-end flow can be automated without having to have humans being involved via email or text or anything else like that. Very, very standardized. And for the person doing the approval, they'll actually see a tile like this in addition to an email and various other sources, which they can click on and say, hey, yes, the bus needs repairs. They can just do this very easy experience. And this is actually captured in the Common Data Service and will show up later on in terms of the history of the approval and things like that.